I'm a security guard hired to protect an estate. The Forest Has Eyes, Part 4, by The Forest Has Eyes. Hey, it's me again, Nolan, Dwight Nolan, your resident security guard stuck in the southeastern forest hell, and someone who's just too painfully stupid to not buy a connecting flight out of here. I really wish I would. It would save me a lot of effort too. So many of you might be wondering just what me, Theodore, and Isaac hashed out in that office on that rainy night, not so long ago. Does Theodore know what's going on? Does he have the answers? Will this be solved so that we can leave? Well, yes and no. For the elephant in the room, well, let me just transcribe it for you. Something is out there, you know. But I don't know exactly what. When I picked this plot of land for its seclusion and low price, I thought nothing about it, even with the local rumors. It was a perfect place to sit down and relax, Theodore said as he rubbed his temples before reaching into his drawer and pulling out a small glass cleaner which he used to defog his lenses. I should have known that something was amiss. 17 workers don't just go missing from an on-site accident. Screwed up? Yes. Naive? Yes. Yet another dead end with no conclusions. Yes. When I looked back at Isaac, part of me wanted to pack up my stuff and get out of here. But whatever is out there, Theodore obviously doesn't know, and his take and experience was bad enough to try and do what the locals did and simply sweep it under the rug. But not me. No. I wasn't just gonna go running back to Chicago, knowing that this stuff is out there. People are getting kidnapped, killed, or worse. I had to get to the bottom of this, so I asked Theodore for a bit of company help. That help came in the form of $17,000 US. It also came with Theodore getting an unexpected company call that forced him to have to fly out to Manhattan for the next week or so and leave his son. Was it genuinely a bad timed call or a scumbag move? I'll let you decide. Regardless of Theodore's antics, we needed to upgrade our defensive capabilities. Or at least that's what Isaac and I came up with when we put it down on the waiver. We were loading up into the SUV that Theodore had left behind, and we were going to drive into town. We were bringing a John with us because we weren't going to leave some high schooler alone in an empty house, not in these woods. But then, the gates opened. When Isaac and I cleared out all of the shrubs from the storm the prior day, it wasn't that bad. Now, nothing was on the trail, but all of the surrounding trees by the front gate were gutted, slashed, carved, torn. If they wanted to get under our skin, I guess it worked, because I heard Isaac lock the doors and windows as we pulled out. So, what's your opinion on all of this? Isaac asked as we drove through the forest towards the main road. I shrugged and said, what's there to say? I think we all got our grievances out. Well, I guess, but, you know, Isaac said as he leaned back in his seat. The endless forest walls lining the sides of the road were almost hypnotic. Why haven't the cops gone after what's in the woods? Seriously. The police are civil servants. Out here, they're paid in peanuts, given low stocks of equipment, and their uniform consists of a polo. I slowed the car as we started going down a slope and gazed at him. Would you want to be the small-town cop to have to go marching into the woods with nothing but a flashlight and hope? Yeah, but still, man, I mean, you can't say that it isn't weird. Look, Isaac, you can ask them when we meet them. Isaac gave me a harsh look after my comment, and I pulled Danny's hat out of my pocket. The SUV slowed to a stop at the main road. Could have fooled me for thinking that this wasn't an interstate line. An almost perfect T-section. with plenty of trees smothering all sides of the road as we stopped. It was quiet. Dead quiet. I turned the car to the right, and we were driving westward to the town down the road. In fact, we were about 10 minutes into the drive before I wondered if we were going the right way. "Where is this place?" I asked, to no one in particular. "If we get lost in the woods, just shoot me," Isaac quipped. "It's just up ahead. Look," John said from the back. Both of us turned and, well, it seemingly just appeared at the next turn we took. It was weird because we were driving down a hill and didn't see it before. Maybe it was just the trees. The forest out here is, well, it's just weird, so who knows. "All right, John," I said, looking at the back seat. "Where's this friend of yours' house?" Now, you might be angered by the idea of Theodore just dropping his kid during the middle of some land dispute strife with the people in the woods, and so were we. So when we had to go to town, dropping John off somewhere disconnected while we were busy with our little corporate shopping trip seemed ideal. The drive there, well, the R in this place doesn't sit any better with me than the woods. The town looks like what you would imagine if you took a southern logging town and you placed it down at the peak of a mountain. A sawmill, a logging yard, right in the middle of the town square area, surrounded by a metal fence. There was a bar, a gun store, which was handy because we were going to need one of those. And, well, there were almost no people. I'm not joking. There was an atmosphere of some sort of disconnectedness as we made our way through what should be a busy part of the town. But instead, there was nothing. Some pedestrians that seemed all too busy to get where they were going, a car every now and then. The suburb-style area, basically. Take that small neighborhood from every Halloween movie. Medium class houses, brick and pine wood, absolutely abandoned. "This place is creepy," Isaac said, head peering out the window at the houses. He turned back to John. "Kid, you sure this is where your friend lives?" John was too enthralled in whatever handheld device he had. Honestly, it looked like an iPad, and he let out a simple, "You're sure she's not possessed, right?" Isaac asked again, and John half chuckled. "Well, that's not really reassuring," Isaac said. "You have reached your destination," the GPS said as we pulled up to the house. The pine wood planks painted blue, with a staircase leading up to the door on the right side of the house's face. There were large windows on the left side. We pulled off to that side. "Is this the place?" I asked. "Yeah. Thanks, guys. I'll see you later," John said, grabbing his bag and hopping out of the car. I could see the look on Isaac's face as he looked around. The street was dead. We were on the edge of town, but cars were everywhere. Why did no one come outside? Or why would anyone ever come outside is a better question. I watched John walk up the stairs and ring the doorbell. "Hey, get a load of that guy," Isaac said, gazing over at a house across the street. On an old, weathered-looking porch stood a man, average height, build, but that's not what stood out. He stood awkwardly, like an unnatural posture. His shoulders held too high, legs apart, like I said, awkwardly. He didn't look right. Even more, he was holding a water canister, watering a plant. That would be fine, if he wasn't flooding the plant so much that it was visibly overflowing. He seemed fixated on John. One of the alarms in my head suddenly went off. Out of my peripheral vision, I saw John's friends, what I guess was a father. Honestly, due to the beard, he could have been Bigfoot. Anyway, he opened the door. Seeing as how he was like 6'5" and probably ate cows for breakfast, I once again felt that the kid would be safe. I waved. Isaac spit some, chewing tobacco, I think, and actually, I don't want to know what he was chewing. He spit it on the floor and he gave a nod. The man was reasonably felt weirded out and headed back inside, and I pulled the car in reverse and backed out. And I saw the man was now staring at us, like dead staring at us. Eyes looking dead, posture just as awkward. But he was staring at us, still distracted. He wasn't even aware the canister was pouring and drenching his loafers in water. And then, awkwardly, he strode into the house, like the rotor cuffs on his hips were broken. As he half shuddered, shuffled, slid inside. A few moments of silence passed, only broken by the hum of the engine. Nice people here, Isaac said. Yes, nice people indeed, I thought. Now, contrary to what might be the popular opinion, we are only slightly insane for continuing to remain on post at the Kazamoth estate. Or at least, I am. Isaac, he's just crazy. He's not even hired to be here. Actually, I think he's just been using it as an excuse to eat the house's food. Anyway, we are slightly crazy, but we aren't stupid. Theodore gave us a considerable amount of money to increase security, and we intend to do just that. So we pulled back up to the gun store we had passed on our way in. It looked old. It was converted, like someone brought a dentist's office and renovated it to be the cellar of self-reassurance. The worn sign above the door said Gareth's Arms. When we stopped the car and stepped out, the air felt weird. Sure, it's slightly muggy from the rainstorm, the sky is gray, but it felt weird beyond the normal weird feeling around here. Like something was concealed, like the town was hiding something underneath the layer of atmosphere. I guess this is what physical mystery feels like, for lack of a better description. The gun shop didn't look half as jerry-rigged on the inside. Oh no. A number of firearms lined the wall. There were Kelvar vests, glasses, crates on each corner of what I can only guess was surplus ammunition. There was a lone cashier, a guy, possibly in his mid-40s, wearing blue khakis, a utility vest, and a set of glasses with a small mohawk on his head. He gazed up at us, and his look of slight confusion was understandable. A man dressed in camo hunting gear and Coors Light memorabilia, flanked by a poor man's rent-a-cop in a leather jacket and jeans. Isaac took the lead without hesitation. "Hello, Freunde. How can Markels help you today?" said a man with a thick accent that made him sound only half understandable, and half the stereotypical movie villain. "Oh, how, Marble?" Isaac stepped up to the counter. "Markel. All right, Marcus. Yeah, we're here on a corporate mission to buy some exportable democracy, we'll say. Anyway, let's see, we've got a pest problem and we need that taken care of." Markel slapped his hands and rubbed them together. "We've got plenty to defeat pest." Markel reached over and took a small revolver from the wall, placing it on the counter. "A 5-shot 32, perfect for any sort of rat infestation." Isaac scratched the back of his head. "We need something a little bigger." Bigger, Markel said, with an eyebrow raised. Maybe something with more fineness. 22. No. Bigger. A 38? No. Bigger. A 308. No, we already tried that. "What type of rats do you have?" Markel said. I sighed. "Isaac, just tell the truth." "The truth?" Markel said with a raised eyebrow, now completely confused. Isaac placed both hands on the counter. "Well, you see, we've actually got a badger infestation." And Markel's confusion grew. Having had enough of this, I just shook my head and said, "We've got some Forest problems. Markle looked at me. Forest problems? You know, I crossed my arms. Things that go bump in the night. You live in this town. Sir, I assure you, I have no idea what you mean, Markle said. Monsters. I'm talking about monsters. The kind of monsters that ate 308 rounds and kept chasing me with wide eyes and devilish grins. A tense silence passed as Markle stared at me. Sir, are you feeling all right? Oh, he hasn't slept in a while. You see, Isaac tried to turn the conversation back around this time, but Markle had had enough. Look, you two, I'm not here to play games. You need proper registration, money, and authority to buy the types of arms you seek. Who do you even work for? Kazamoth, Estate Security, I said. And with that, all of the color drained from his face. Ah, Kazamoth. What? Isaac looked around confused. Does that mean something in German? Like, your mother's No. Gareth, can you come here? It's important. Markle called to the back room. What is it, Markle? Another accented voice called from the back. It was weird, 2 Europeans in a gun shop in the southern United States. Honestly, not the weirdest thing I've seen all this month, but still, a little odd. There are 2 men here from the Kazamoth estate. After a second of pin-drop silence, a smaller, but no less dangerous-looking man emerged from the back. He had a bald head, a rough beard, and a body built like he wrestled trees since he was a kid. He walked up and looked us over. Kazamoth, he said. What does that mean? It's just some privatized wooded area and an estate, Isaac said, still confused. Poor Isaac. Isaac, are you actually brain dead? I asked bluntly. What? The woods are freaky, so what if there's a cabin there? Honestly, this man must have been half buzzed. You see, the Kazamoth estate is a bad omen, Garrett said. No one ever buys land outside of the town. It is an unspoken rule. There are things in the woods you don't touch, you do not disturb. Kazamoth mustn't have gotten the memo, because he bought a whole slew of the deep woods. And ever since the work began, bad things have occurred. What's been going on? What's going on? Isaac said, shaking his head. The construction of his house, the walls took 3 months to complete, and the lives of 17 workers, said Markle. Construction accidents happen. There was a lot of electrical work to be done. Maybe it was just a coincidence. I said it, but I knew it wasn't. But I thought it wouldn't hurt to prod. Gareth chuckled and shook his head. The electrical utilities, they don't tear a man's intestines out and string them across trees like garland, or they don't impale them through the mouth on branches or rip them apart. Yep, Isaac said, nodding his head, mildly intrigued. That just about adds up. If you boys work there, my advice is to get on the next train out of town. No one can stop what's going to happen there, Gareth said, a sympathetic look piercing his so far cold demeanor. Sadly, I've got a job to do, Mr. Gareth. One that includes an upgrade in firepower. Do you think you can help us out? Gareth chuckled, waving us off. Markles, help them with whatever. They're dead anyways. Hey, buddy, Isaac said, leaning back towards me. Before we go, let's hit up the sheriff's office around here or something. I want to report that missing kid. You know, you go do that, I'll take care of this. Before I could protest, Markle stepped in. Missing kid? I showed him the hat, and if any more color could escape his face, it did. The local pub has a missing persons board. I'd head there to see if it matches anyone, Markle said. Don't worry, man, Isaac said as he extended his hand. Papa Isaac's skilled in all of this. I've got this covered. I stared blankly at him and said, Look, I've known you a collective 1 week. Not even that, really. He said, unsure of what that meant. You want me to trust you with enough money to buy several T-60 tanks and leave you unattended? Look, Isaac interrupted. He pointed his index finger at me. I saved your life. I opened the gate. Once again, I stared, unimpressed. If I was some witch, I could have killed you by now, Isaac said. He had a point, about as strong as cardboard, but it was still a point. I continued to wonder if I could trust him as I walked out the door, the cold, still air of the town immediately drawing me from the thought. A short stroll down the road and I was looking at the thick iron door of the bar. All the windows were high on the walls, and they were too small for anyone to look into. The inside wasn't grimy, but it sure was gritty. The darkness of the cramped bar was combated by a few LED lights that were on the walls. There were old vintage metal signs hung everywhere. Several tables were on the main floor with booths lining the far right wall and at the far back. There was a sign, Bring them home. It was plastered above a corkboard with red letters. On the corkboard, crammed together, were dozens and dozens of missing person flyers. Young, old, man, woman, child. No discrimination. I don't even think that a person noticed me as I walked over to it. Looking at the flyers. Danny, I said to myself. I racked my memory trying to remember what he looked like. I'm not even sure if he was real. Sometimes I think he might have been a decoy. But then I saw him at the bottom right-hand corner of the board. The sign read, Missing. It had a picture of the boy, pretty much like I remembered him. His name was Daniel Hothfield, age 9. Date of last sighting was 4/3/18. The note said that he was last seen wearing red and yellow. There was a number. I took out my phone, planning on calling it. The number was listed as being his parental guardian, his mom, but I barely got past the area code before I heard a voice call from my back right. What you looking at, stranger? I turned, and a large man in a camo hat and coat sat in a booth along the wall, along with a woman and 2 other men. The 2 other men looked up as the woman just continued to finish her drink. I'm just looking at these. You know, disturbing the dead's looked down upon around here, one of the other males perked up. A pit grew in my stomach as I just stared back, answering only, Missing doesn't mean dead. The man in the camo hat simply scoffed and shook his head. Boy, down here we don't like to make prank calls. With missing kids, you go back to Chicago, the first man said. And at first I was confused as to how he knew I was from Chicago. Then I realized that my jacket had a Chicago patch on it. I'm not pranking, I said. I saw him out in the woods, or at least, I think I've got a lead. A lead? The third guy said. Me and my boys were up there looking for a whole month. You expect me to believe you found one? And that you saw what? You saw a ghost? Not quite, I answered, taking the hat from my pocket and holding it up. All 3 men's eyes widened slightly. Camo hat nudged the woman to his right. Marion, he said. She gazed up at him. He gestured towards me, and something in the look in her eyes told me that she was Mrs. Hothfield. The talk was intimate, to say the least. I don't want to tell everything that was said, but here's what happened. Marion and her son Danny, along with a few friends, went camping. All went well until he up and vanished. Not during the middle of the night, not from wandering off. He disappeared in the middle of the day. More precisely, he went missing when they turned their backs, or turned their heads, really. He went missing in the middle of eating his lunch. The guys at the booth, hunters who went with him, thought that he was kidnapped. They kept saying that Danny saw someone out in the woods. They couldn't see whoever it was, but Danny kept saying that there was something. He kept saying something about a man with no mouth. At least it was one loose end. Some of the other cases on the board they get weird. A woman vanished from her RV in the middle of driving down the road. Her shoe was identified and found over 20 miles away in a nearby cave. Another story said that a mother dropped off her baby at her parents' house, then came home to find grandma and grandpa deceased. The child was never found. The kicker was the cause of death was listed as natural, but never had any real reason. And finally, Missouri State Trooper Kyle Brunson. There was a call about a woman lost in the road, staggering as if she was drunk. Reinforcements arrived to see the SUV ransacked and abandoned. Kyle's hat was found, sliced and soaked in water, in the middle of a dry day. His body was never recovered. I stepped outside for some fresh air and headed back to the SUV. This kind of stuff will mess with your mind if you let it sit for too long. When I arrived back at the vehicle, Isaac was there, eating a tub of something. I could not tell what it was. "What's that?" I asked. "What's what?" he answered in the middle of eating. "Your food," I said. "Oh," he looked at the half-eaten tub of ice cream. It's some good stuff." "How did you buy that?" "With the money you gave me," he stared blankly. "The money that I trusted you to buy supplies with." He held his hands up defensively. "Hey," he stared at me, holding up one index finger and pointing at me slowly. "I saved you." "Yeah, so you keep telling me." I shook my head as I headed to the back. Isaac continued to lean on the vehicle, pleased with himself. "Plus, it was only like $5. I mean, you should see some of the stuff they've got in the stores here. You know, the bookstore is selling a real Necronomicon?" Just as he said this, a car drove up behind us. My hand froze and gripped the trunk as I saw it was a sheriff's car. It was probably not the best time to flash 300+ pounds of ordnance. The cruiser stopped, the engine still running, as a short yet husky sheriff exited the vehicle, flanked by a skinnier one with a handlebar mustache. "Evening, fellas," the sheriff said, his hand grabbing his collar as his partner sat on the hood. Isaac and I could only stare at each other. Isaac started to say, and I thought, "Isaac, don't say anything. Don't get them annoyed. They're gonna shoot us." I am certain that one day I will die because of Isaac. The main sheriff furrowed his brow, looking over at his partner and then back to us and simply chuckled. "Nah, we just do that to all outsiders. The truth is, a call came in that someone saw you and your friend loading more rifles than we've got at the station. 10 times that. They're in the trunk. And we wanted to check and see if everything was all right." "Oh, we were just shopping," Isaac said, finishing off his tub and tossing it into the nearest dumpster, which missed and dinged off to the side with the spoon. Wait, they'd given him a metal spoon? What sort of place does that? But back to the story. The cop on the hood raised his eyebrows. "Shopping? What y'all preparing for? The Chinese to invade?" "Hunting," I corrected Isaac and backed away from the trunk. "They're just hunting supplies." The main cop sputtered as he walked over, glaring into the back window. "I assume you're chasing a really nasty bear with that 30-06 right there." I looked shocked and non-verbally asked Isaac, "Really?" He shrugged and gestured back, saying, "What?" "You boys want to be straight with me," the sheriff said, "'cause those dragon breath rounds are technically illegal." I dropped a look at Isaac and said, "You actually bought incendiary rounds?" "Oh, okay, you know what?" Isaac said, defiantly pointing at me. "You want them dead or not?" I shook my head as I looked at the cop. "We're just stocking up for security." He laughed at me. "A lot of home defense. Where do you live?" "Up the road." His eyebrow rose as I continued. "At the Kazamoth estate." The man's face grew serious as he backed away from the trunk. His partner got off the hood, straightened up. "The Kazimoth estate, huh?" The hood cop brushed himself off. "You're gonna probably need more than that," he said. The main cop looked right at me. "Are you security?" "Uh-huh," I said. "Your boss kicked a hornet's nest by weaseling in there." He gazed from me to Isaac and then back to me. "We never saw you," he said, and then without another word, both officers climbed back into their patrol car and drove away. Something told me that despite his jokiness, the look in Isaac's eyes, both unanimously agreed with me. This situation kept getting more and more disturbing as the day went by. We picked up John. The neighbor was no longer on the porch, but he was peering at us from the front window. We asked John about him, but he was confused. The guy slinked back away from the window before he could see him. Now it's been a few days, and Isaac and I have looked around the house, setting up defenses. We're trying to get things sealed up. We've got a checklist, one of which includes scanning the trail over and recovering the lost ATV. Speaking of which, that's in an hour. Been quiet so far, but we'll see if it remains that way. I'll keep you updated.